My name's Adrian Groberg. I'm 19 years old. I graduated high school in 2021, so just last year. I've been training for a little while. So by a little while, I started in September of 2021, and started rolling into things there. And I actually met uh, Spencer and Brady. Uh, we were part of team Take Uncommon Action or TUA, and Spencer had me come down, and I talked to Brady and got more seriously involved in bodybuilding, things like that. So I've been doing that pretty much ever since.
Gotcha, man. So at what point did fitness really become a part of your life? Was it through sports? Was it through kind of just personal interest?
Well, I guess it all kind of started when I was in seventh grade, actually. And my dad, we had a membership. He had a membership at the Gold's Gym, and he would take me there sometimes. And I kind of just fell in love with it from there. Obviously, I wasn't doing anything crazy because I was like 12 or 13. But that's where it all started. And then from there, I just took it personally and kind of made it a commitment for myself. I started playing sports too when I got into high school, like contact sports, like football was the main. So obviously, there's a lot of weightlifting and strength training that comes with football.
Right.
So I got even more into it then, and that's when I got more into the dieting aspect of things. Because when I started playing football, I think my freshman year, I was 14, and I think I weighed like 110 pounds or 115 max. And I kind of did my first bulk then. And by the end of our off season, I was like 135. So I put on like 20 pounds or something like that.
Nice. And back in the early days when you just started, hitting the gym, was bodybuilding at all kind of on your radar? Did you know anything about it? Were you ever a fan of, the sport, anything like that?
Well, I mean, I watched Pumping Iron. I think it was on Netflix, and I was like, man, that's super cool. And I was really, you know, it was there, but it was kind of in the back of my head, so I wasn't super focused on it. I was mostly focused on, there's that huge debate between strength and aesthetics when it comes to bodybuilding. But I was mostly focused on strength training and, plyometrics and things like that because I was more of a serious athlete.
Gotcha.
But as things developed and like it was pretty much directly after high school, I was like, I want to put on more weight and I want to get more serious with my weight training. Took on like a power building type of a deal where it was like strength and hypertrophy.
Gotcha. So kind of that competitive nature, still kind of wanting to do something, and that was it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here just for a second. Let me tell you about Smoking Gun Coffee. They're a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to produce a quality coffee at an affordable price. They only buy coffee from small coffee farmers around the world with a cup score of at least 85. Each batch is roasted to order for maximum freshness. They also donate a large portion of their proceeds to organizations that help local communities, veterans, first responders, or you can donate to the foundation of your choice at the checkout by going to www.smokingguncoffee.com. That's SMOKIN Gun Coffee.
Gotcha. And, when you go from training, strength conditioning style training to, a more hypertrophy, that kind of training,
Mhm.
obviously there's definitely some differences there. Did you feel like you were, you know, coming into this new challenge, training differently, your muscles, feeling differently, maybe after training, things like that?
Yeah. So football was super, we did a lot of cardio because, we had to be fast and strong and everything and agile. So, I'd be sore after a practice, because it's just a lot of, it was very intense. But when I started training for bodybuilding and hypertrophy more specifically, like every time I came out of a workout, it was way more sore because the biggest thing for me is like mind muscle connection and just making sure I'm working the muscle group I'm trying to target and doing things the right way and just, progressive overload on everything.
Gotcha. And when you do start to train by yourself, versus with a team, the team's there, the coach is there, people are kind of holding you accountable a little bit more. So it takes a little bit of that accountability off your shoulders. Did you feel like you had to kind of gain that a little bit at all whenever you did start training by yourself?
Not in particularly. I felt like it was more. What? Let me start over with that. When I was training in football, I took everything very personally, and I'm just someone who's like, when I take something on, I'm hitting at 100%, 110% even, and I really just like get down. I'm like, okay, how can I do my best and then do better? But the difference is you have a lot more support, so it kind of makes it a little bit easier. But again, when I was playing football, I was our defensive captain and things like in my later years, my junior and senior year. So it was a lot more like trying to help other people. So I had to bring my best every day. So I just built that habit over those couple of years. So it wasn't much different when I was doing it myself.
Gotcha. And how long was it before you did from the time you started training outside of sports, outside of school, how long did it take you to go to Brady?
So when I started, it was kind of like when I got to college in Idaho, and I started training in September. It was probably the middle of September. It was probably about February of 2022.
Gotcha.
Also 6 or 7 months.
Okay. And during that time frame of training by yourself, kind of under your own information, under your own knowledge, things like that,
Mhm.
how do you think things transitioned when you did go from by yourself to having a coach?
So there's a lot more support that I realized that comes with the coach. And previously, since I've been involved with fitness, I did a lot of my own research on, dieting and how my macros affect me and just like my metabolism and things like that. Because I'm a pretty lean person as it is. But so I kind of had some knowledge when it came down to hypertrophy and dieting and whatever. But when I got in contact with Brady and started getting coached through him, there was a lot different movements that I was doing that I wasn't super familiar with. And then along with that is like the change in diet in the terms of, oh yeah, I didn't realize that, you know, my macros could be this and I was doing it like this. Or going in is like the biggest thing for me was pretty much time under tension. And I took it a lot more seriously doing 90-second rest in between my sets. And that made all the difference for me. As soon as the first workout that I did of Brady's, I was like, wow, it blew me away because of just like the next day I was just feeling it so much worse than how I usually did. And I was like, oh, it's a whole different ball game as soon as you get a coach.
So was your rest typically shorter or typically longer?
Um, it was kind of in between. I kind of just went off of how I felt. If I felt
Gotcha.
like I could get in and, put on some more weight, I would just play it by ear.
How does it feel being a young guy in this sport? You're definitely, among the younger athletes. So,
Uh-huh.
and especially, being around Brady, being around other athletes at TUA, especially, over this past weekend. What do you feel like being younger guy? What do you feel like you've kind of learned about the sport, learned about, how to take it from where you are now?
Definitely that there's an advantage that comes with being younger. I'm still growing, and a lot of the guys that I was meeting, are 23, 24, 25. So when you think about it, like since I'm still growing, I'm younger, I still have that increased testosterone. So, results come pretty quickly. And with that, there comes the thing that learning about the mentality of, okay, just because my results come faster, it doesn't mean you can take shortcuts, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I still have to work harder than everybody else if I want to be better than everybody else,
Right.
you know? And it was cool being at Alpha Land because I was meeting a lot of people, you know, within my age group, you know, like early 20s or something like that. But it was also kind of harder to connect because like, oh, I haven't experienced a lot of the things that they've done, you know. But
Yeah.
it also feels like I'm a kind of a link between things. I know a lot of people from my hometown and like connections that I had outside of bodybuilding. Like just today, I think I answered like 10 or 12 messages of like, hey, do you have any tips for, you know, my age of how to get into fitness or whatever
That's
and
pretty
things
cool.
like that. So yeah.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
Yeah, that's cool to kind of be able to be that influence, you know, help out the younger generation, and you know, just being able to use your experience as a help for somebody else. I think that's kind of really what the weight room's all about in a lot of senses, is just kind of passing on information. And you know, even though you are younger, even though you don't have as much experience as somebody who's been in it
Yeah.
for 5, 10, 15 years, like in my opinion, everybody has some kind of, you know, piece of advice from their life that can transfer. You know, it's really cool how we can all kind of be in different stages on different paths, and we can kind of um, you know, really insert our experiences and to help other people. But you know, you mentioned that you work construction, correct?
Yeah, I'm actually in the work truck right now. And those are the toolboxes right there, as you can't see them.
That's awesome, man. So obviously a very physical, you know, laborious, I believe that's the word. I could have just made that up, but I think it is. Um, a very physical job.
Yeah.
How do you manage that physicality with obviously having to go pretty hard in the gym?
So a lot of people will look at the gym and they're just like, oh, that's like, you know, another box I have to check, or that's another task I have to complete for the day. And then there's the other side of that idea where it's like, I cannot wait to get off work and just put my headphones on and go lift. And that's every day for me because it's like, it's just such a part of my life and such a passion for me that if I don't get my lift in for the day, or if for whatever reason, like the gym closes or something before I can get there, like I just don't feel the same. And I feel like my entire day was ruined because that's the only thing I was looking forward to. But like I kind of get an adrenaline rush every time. Like I get in the truck and I'm getting ready to go to the gym and I'm just like, oh yeah. And if I was tired or something before, it just like everything goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely understand that. You know, it kind of training and wouldn't really even maybe call it training, but working out in college kind of had that same feeling. You know, it was like I had classes I had to go to, I had, you know, homework and tests and things I had to do and study for. And, you know, at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, a lot of times I did mine at the beginning of the day, but if I couldn't, if I had to do it at the end of the day, it was like, you know, I was so looking forward to that moment where I could just, you know, put on the clothes, go to the gym, walk in. You know, it has that certain smell, it has a certain sounds, it has, you know, all those components that just like, you know, they click, and it like
Yeah.
puts you in that zone when you go in there.
Yep. Exactly.
So obviously a big part of bodybuilding is the is the eating aspect. You know, if you're working construction, and I think we kind of touched on this at Alpha Land a little bit, but how do you really manage to get all that food in you have to get in?
So before I started, before I came out here, I moved to South Dakota, which I've only been here for like a month and some change. I was doing I worked in Idaho at the FedEx warehouse. So I was doing a bulk through there and I was eating like 5,000 calories every day. And I had to be up at like 3 a.m. to go to work. So it was kind of nice because I could get in and I had 4 hours to eat before
Right.
people even got up. And so I would just get a lot of food in there. And then throughout the day, I would meal prep during the beginning of the week, you know, make all my jasmine rice, ground beef, you know, cut up my greens, things like that. But probably the biggest thing that helps is like gainer shakes. I drank a lot of mass gainer shakes, especially because my metabolism is so high. So I was drinking like 900 calories of liquid. most recently, what I had been using was the Action Sledge. It was the sweet potato pie protein, and I
Uh,
would throw like 2 scoops of that in my shake with some oats and peanut butter and the other typical stuff.
Gotcha. No, yeah, that's cool. Um, you know, obviously nutrition, like I said, is a big part of the the equation. But is there something that you particularly, struggle with when it comes to the sport of bodybuilding, whether it be the nutrition or the sleep or the the posing, probably not the training. We talk about how much you love that, but is there
Yeah.
something that you particularly, you find yourself struggling with more than something else?
You can ask Brady, but whenever like I started prepping, I just had a lot going on and kind of pretty much throughout the entire prep. Um, I moved a couple of times and I was in between different jobs and whatever. And like trying to balance everything, and since it was so new to me, it was hard to remember to be like, oh yeah, I got to check in today, or I got to weigh in, or things like that. Or it was keeping up with my calories was pretty easy, but making sure it took my update pictures and let coach know how I was feeling, or making sure I was getting enough sleep and just things like that, like keeping those tabs running in the back of your head
Right.
of like, oh yeah, this is something you have to do now.
Yeah. And talking about summer shredding, was that a show that you knew about beforehand and was like, "Hey, I want to do this," or was it something he kind of recommended that you do?
So it was recommended to me. I honestly had no intentions of really competing at all. Um, I kind of just wanted to have a look, and I was a skinnier kid, so I always wanted, bulk up or whatever, the cliche story of every skinny guy I've ever met. But as soon as I found out about it, I was like, oh, sure, yeah, let's do it. That sounds perfect. But I kind of went in blind because I didn't really know what to expect, honestly.
Yeah. Do you feel like that was an advantage to kind of go in without too much information on like what to expect?
Honestly, yeah, because that naivety just helped me kind of dismiss a lot of negative thoughts. Because when it comes down to fitness, you know, it's really there's a lot of mental discipline because everybody faces things like body dysmorphia, or they're not hitting their goals as fast as they want, or a lot of athletes are really hard on themselves because we train ourselves to be as close to perfection as we can. So yeah, but it was really nice because I was like, the only thing I can do is bring my best. I don't know what to expect.
Yeah. I
So
can
the only thing
imagine.
I can do is be prepared for everything.
I can imagine, going kind of knowing too much about, especially this show where if you're kind of a fan of fitness, you know that it's going to be a big, influencer show. Obviously,
Yeah,
a lot of people that you may watch on YouTube or may follow on social media, and I can see where that would be like a little bit of an added, not necessarily pressure per se, but like some people are like really into it, and it's like I don't want to look bad or I don't want to, seem like I'm not prepared in front of these certain people. So, I can see where at least for some people that would be a big element for this show, to just add a little bit of an extra um, sense of pressure in a way, I guess.
yeah. Kind of what I faced like on that tab was honestly, since I didn't really know who was going to be there, it was just like, a lot of people that I followed. I remember walking into the gym like the first day, and I was getting my competition shorts, and I turned around and Isaiah Miranda was right there, and I was like, oh, okay. It was just completely caught me off guard, but it was also really cool because since I had already set that mindset for me, it didn't really shake me that much. But a lot of like Cameron Souter, I follow him on Instagram, and he was a real big inspiration to me on the posing that he does. So I saw him, and I was like, oh, holy crap! And he was super nice, and sat down, and he went to gym 2 at Alpha Land, and we posed together, and he was giving me some coaching on what I can fix and how to hold myself, and it was really cool. It was honestly the entire summer shredding event was the best experience of my life.
That's cool. That's really cool. Not obviously I wasn't competing, but just being a part of, the crowd, and then being a part of kind of the after part, at Alpha Lane, where everybody kind of goes and experiences it and trains and all that kind of stuff. It was definitely one of the best experiences as well for me, being a fitness lover and being someone who just likes to be around a lot of positive energy and a lot of hardworking people.
Yeah.
Kind of backstage, was there, what was your feeling of being backstage?
When I got back there, and I kind of was one of the first people that got backstage, and then everybody started showing up. I kind of took it to what it was like in one of my teammates. His Instagram is King David. He was on our team. Was like, dude, this reminds me of being in the football locker room. And I was
Cool.
like, yeah, it does. But it was really different because it was so many different people that were competing against each other. But it also felt like everybody was on one big team because people would go around and they were like, compliment your physique, or you would compliment somebody else's, and you would sit there and have a conversation. And it was competitive, but not like cutthroat competition. And it was really cool just seeing everybody support each other. And that's what fitness is all about, helping
Mhm.
other people reach their goals, giving them some knowledge here, taking some knowledge there, and just supporting each other. So it was a really cool, um, what's the word, setting to be down there. And it was just like a really good mood of the entire room.
Tell us a little bit about what it was like to step on the stage, look from my perspective, I'm looking at just, a few people up on stage. But once you're on there and you're kind of looking out, and you're seeing the judges and you're hearing the judges and you're hearing the applause and the people talking and yelling at competitors, like, tell us a little bit about what that was like for you.
It was kind of cool because you'll see stuff in movies, like when somebody walks out onto a stage, like there's a movie about some celebrity, and like the curtains open up and they walk back and there's all the lights and the camera's flashing or whatever. But I was kind of nervous backstage, like while I was pumping up, and I was just like, yeah, I didn't really realize how many people were going to be there. And Nate Blackwell was like, yeah, this whole place fills up. And that was like right before I went backstage. I was like, oh, well, great. So I knew like that mentality that I have, like all you can do is bring your best. And after that, it's not really going to matter. And it's like you're up there for 15 seconds doing your routine, and then you can just kind of stand there and do your best to look pretty, I guess. So
Getting off stage though, what was there a sense of like relief at all, or like a sense of it was a great experience, but I'm kind of glad that I'm off stage a little bit?
yeah, first thing that I thought was, okay, my calf is gonna cramp as soon as I walk down these stairs, because our class was like 24 guys, and everybody there was like phenomenal physiques, and I was just like, dang, like this is really good competition. And I didn't expect to sit on stage for as long as we did. And honestly, I can't even remember, but it felt like forever. And as soon as we walked off, like I was holding a position for so long that like my left uh, calf was just like, I looked down at it and my left calf had a pump and my right one didn't. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
What were your main takeaways from the whole experience? Obviously the prep, getting on stage, and then finally kind of taking a look at what you did do. Like, what were your main takeaways from the show?
Definitely that, I do a lot of personal reflection after I do like any bigger accomplishments or anything. But the biggest takeaways that I found for myself was, okay, these are things that you can work on this off season. These are some new goals that I'd like to accomplish. And three, probably the biggest one was, you earned and you worked for a lot of support while you were here, so you just made a lot of new friends. But it just also helped reassure me how important the discipline is of making sure even on those days that you're tired. Because even though I love fitness, I work close to 50 hours a week, and some days I come home and I'm just like, dang it, I'm tired.
Yeah.
You know, and just staying consistent with things.
So, what are some of those things that you are setting out to work on, and some of those goals that you do have for the future?
So I came on and I did men's physique for my first show, but I really, really, really want to do classic physique like so bad. So I was talking to Brady about it, and that's kind of the direction I'm going to try to go in. So making sure I'm putting on some good mass and working on some target areas like building a fuller chest, things like that, some meatier legs, and just things like that.
For the younger guys out there who are looking for some type of competition in their life, some type of goal to strive for, and maybe they're looking at bodybuilding, like what kind of advice would you have for them?
Start now. That's the biggest thing I could tell anyone, and it's what I try to tell everyone. And something that I say to people is like motivation gives birth to discipline, because the motivation will get you started, but the discipline will grow and it will take you through everything. And being younger, you have that advantage of, you don't really have bills to pay. You don't, most of the time, you don't have to pay for the food. So if you're like 15 or 16 and you're like, hey, I want to get into bodybuilding, like take full advantage of that situation, because as soon as you get out into college or something like that, and you have to start paying like $150 plus a week to supplement your growth, it kind of sucks. But start now and just build the habits young, so that when you get to, where I am right now, there's kids that are like, one of the guys that I met on the gym that I also follow on social media, his name's Ethan. He just turned 18 years old and he's massive. And he's been training since he was like 16.
But yeah, I think that's really good advice, man. Start as soon as possible, whatever kind of you want to do, and take advantage of that time that you have, because we only have, limited time. It's part of the, I think part of the adventure is being able to capitalize on the amount of time that we do have. So yeah, man, it's really cool to get to talk to you and get to, have you on the podcast. It was cool to meet you in person as well. And, continue with that hard work, man. It's really cool to kind of watch you and continue to watch you and see what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was great being on here. It was super great to meet you guys over at Alpha Land. And when you guys asked me to jump on a podcast, honestly, I was like, wow, like it kind of made my whole week. Like I was like, oh, cool. So it was a super great opportunity and I loved it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. And before we jump off here, if you want to share your social medias or anything where people can follow you, you can do that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Pretty much the only thing that I run on right now is Instagram. So it's _Adrian.aesthetic_. Go follow me on there. I post, things about getting shredded and staying shredded and aesthetics and pictures and whatever. So
awesome, man. We'll put that down in the description. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on, and have a great night.
hey, you too. Thank you so much for having me.